breakout players for Tennessee football, the top 10, my number 10 is Jeremiah Thielander. And I debated whether or not to put him higher, but I do think he's going to be the odd man out of the three linebackers. Him, Aaron Carter, Keenan Peely. We'll get to those, funny enough. But just because he'll be the third doesn't mean he's not going to play a lot. I mean, he played a good bit last year, and I think he'll play more this year.
Okay. If I play this,
that's crazy.
That means I disagree with you. If I play this,
Hey now.
You're right on.
That's crazy.
I would have Jeremiah Thielander, that I was corrected by Tim Banks the other day. I would have Jeremiah Thielander rated in the top 5 of this list.
Okay, we'll debate that, but I do have to say that, like, he's not going to start. And
That's
the thing
true.
is, he did play. His role technically hasn't increased from last year because he was the third linebacker on the list last year after Keenan Peely went down. And so part of this breakout, the concept of breakout, is how much of a leap do you take from the year before? My criteria for this list, you have to have been at Tennessee last year, and you can't yet have played a season where you started the majority of the games.
Okay. I guess then maybe I'm going along the most improved lines from what I've heard. And he is one of those. But you're right. His role is not going to change unless something happens to Keenan Peely, which nobody wants. Dominique Bailey.
Dominic Bailey's number 9. With Tyler Barron. Oh, you go ahead and give me your thoughts.
I agree with that.
So Dominic Bailey, with Tyler Barron gone, I think Tennessee is a little bit in flux with who's going to play the other end spot, the one who always has his hand on the ground, basically.
Yes.
And I believe, Tyler Barron was like 6'5", 260, but I believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Dave, I believe they prefer like a 280, 290 type guy to play that role, don't they? More than a 260 guy.
On what would be considered the strong side most of the time, the opposite of the Leo position, yes.
Yes. Yeah, they want 280, 290. Dominic Bailey fits that role. The only question I have is, and here's the truth, Dominic Bailey was on the roster before Tyler Barron was there. He has just 13 total tackles from last year, and that was his most productive year ever. Is there a red flag that he's a fifth-year senior and that's his most productive year?
Yes, which I would not have him on this list.
That's crazy.
Josh Turbeville, number 8.
I mean, Charles Campbell's gone. Tennessee needs a place kicker. Josh Turbeville will handle kickoff duties. He's the favorite to become the place kicker.
Hey now.
Kick him straight, young man. Ethan Davis at tight end. I considered writing a feature on him this morning, and I'll probably do it tomorrow. I feel like the potential superstars, he's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit. Maybe that's because he's younger, maybe because they actually have depth at tight end now. But
hey now.
I might even have Ethan Davis a little bit higher, but I'm good with about 7.
Yeah, think about this. Both starting tight ends from last year are gone, McCollum Castles and Jacob Warren. Ethan Davis was on the roster last year. He struck me as a couple of other people were going to name on this list who they were true freshmen last year that were highly touted and were supposed to sit a year and they'd be ready to break out this year. I mean, if he doesn't break out this year, he's a disappointment as a signed prospect. He's going to be he should win the go-to receiver job for Tennessee, be the go-to receiving tight end. There's no reason he shouldn't win that. He's way too athletic to not win it.
I'm with you. Tyree West, maybe a little high, but I think that he is going to take another major step last year as he was primarily a backup the year before.
Yeah, remember, guys, he was the most highly touted recruit on signing day of 2021, the early signing period for the 2022 class. We just talked about replacing Tyler Barron. Dominic Bailey is going to break out because he's going to move to the number 2 spot in the role. Tyree West, I think, is going to steal the starting spot in the role, though. He's going to be the starting strong side defensive end, I think, on opening day. And I don't know if you agree with me on that, Dave, but I think Tyree West the potential is too great for him.
Nope, I agree. But speaking of potential, there is Elijah Simmons, who you have at number 5 as the biggest breakout ball. If you told me right now, Caleb, that he's 100% healthy, I would say he's number 1. And it's not close. And I would argue with you till the end of time. But I think
I know you wouldn't, because there's a very obvious number 1, guys. Okay. You wouldn't have Elijah Simmons over the number 1.
Oh, well, Nico, I'm sorry. I'm taking Nico out of the equation because I know everybody's going to take Nico first.
You can't take the obvious number 1 out of the equation sometimes. We got to get to him. But
okay, no, I'm sorry. So I would have Elijah Simmons. I'm interested to see who's 2 and 3 and 4. But I would have Elijah Simmons at number close to, or let's say number 2 behind a guy named Nico. But I think the world of him. I hope things happen well for him this year because it feels a little like the Billy Ratliff, doesn't it? Where a defensive guy just keeps getting these nicks and bangs and injuries. And then you go to the NFL and you go through it's the physical inspections and they look at you and you got all these nicks and bangs and it costs you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I hate to see that happen, and I hope it doesn't happen to Elijah Simmons. I hope he's 100% healthy. Number 4, you've got Ricky Gibson III, Jr. Esquire.
Ricky Gibson III. Ricky Gibson III may be the most may one day become the most productive RG3 in NFL history. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Yeah, I got you on that.
Okay, so Ricky Gibson III. I thought it was going to be Jordan Matthews, but Ricky Gibson, for those who don't realize, only started one game last year in the Citrus Bowl, but we've heard a ton about him already. I think this is another one that they took Jordan Matthews and Ricky Gibson, expecting one of them to break out and emerge. It was kind of a numbers game. They were playing the odds, and Gibson turned out to be that guy, and I think they're very high. I think he can be a lockdown corner this year.
You just made me think of something, not to get too off topic, but didn't Tennessee's 2024 season start in December of 2023? When you decide to play Ricky Gibson III as a starter, and you said that was his first starting game?
Yes.
Okay, and you decide to play Nico, and you don't even consider, because I was told early in the process, as soon as the final regular season game was over, that it was going to be Nico. That season started then. This season started then, and I think that's the way Josh Heupel looked at it. He was fortunate to play the perfect opponent in Iowa.
Well, yeah, but 2023 started in the 2023 Orange Bowl from the year before. I think
I just think there was even a more decided, you play Joe Milton if you're concerned about the look and you want to make sure you win and he's your guy and all that. But it just feels like they made a clean break from the old to the past, from the former guys to their guys, not across the board, but it just seems like if there was a decision to be made, they were going to lean towards the new guys. That's fair to say.
Yes, this is a larger topic though, because this is what we talk.
Right.
This is a case for expanding the playoff or not having it at all. But when you have a 14 playoff, you make every other bowl game meaningless. So every other bowl game now, they're not going to try to win. Coaches are trying to prepare for the future. That's why I have actually always defended, Dave. I defend player opt-outs for bowl games. If you're not going to come back next year, I don't want you playing on my team in the bowl game because I want to get the other guys ready.
As long as it's not the playoffs, I agree. Arian Carter, number 3. Listen, I'm going to lean on Fred White, who tells me he is an incredible talent, and he was hurt last year. I think Arian Carter is going to have a fantastic year.
And for those who don't know, Fred White called James Pierce before anybody called James Pierce.
Yeah, Fred White said that James Pierce was like Leonard Little. And I've known Fred for a lot of years, and he didn't say that lightly.
Yeah, he didn't. So he told us that before anybody. Fred White scouts defensive players very, very well. And if he's saying that about Arian Carter, I'm with him. Arian Carter was the guy. We forget this. He was, for the 2023 recruiting class, Dave, he was the defensive version of Nico Iamaleava, which is, we know you're going to sit for a year behind a more veteran player who you will probably be better than long-term, but then you will start your sophomore year and you will break out and become a superstar. I think we have superstar expectations for Arian Carter.
Now, before at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, we were discussing Keenan Pili and where that might fall on the list. And you said that I might have a problem with it because, he is more a proven commodity than a lot of the other guys we've talked about. However, I don't. I think that given your criteria of the biggest step from one year to the next, his was because of injury, but other than Nico, who is number 1, I can't argue with Keenan Pili at all because barring injury, he's going to start every significant snap for the Vols at middle linebacker.
Yes, and technically this would be a breakout from last year, and he would break out for Tennessee. And for those who question, the reason I don't have Brew McCoy on this list, and Dave, you know this, Brew McCoy was too effective in 2022, so he wouldn't be a breakout player because Brew McCoy has already produced for Tennessee. I
agree. Brew was proven enough to me. Now, other than Nico, who is the one player on this list that doesn't just take a step this year, that has the greatest potential for being a superstar? Let me ask you that question, brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. right now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is all about time. They save you time because you don't have to go back and forth to get tools or to the shop. And they've got the Knapheide work bodies. They're installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, anything special like cranes and dump trucks in Birmingham, on Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks with an X, worktrucksllc.com. Why risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Work Trucks with an X, llc.com. Proud supporter of the Vols. Who do you think has the greatest upside out of the group of breakout players that we talked about? If you had to pick one, let me ask you this. If you're an agent and you had to pick one guy, and his name can't be Nico, and you had to sign one guy, who would it be? You're going to make 10% or 5% of his money.
There's two. And they are in the same class as Nico. And Nico and these two were all recruited for the exact same reason, which is to ride the bench as, like I said, as freshmen in 2023, while backing up guys who were much more experienced and then being ready to explode onto the scene as superstars in 2024. One is the guy we just mentioned, Arian Carter. I think Arian Carter is a potential All-American type player for Tennessee. It's one of the biggest early recruiting wins of Josh Heupel's tenure. He beat out. Remember how badly Nick Saban wanted him?
Yes, no, absolutely.
And Heupel won that battle. The other is Ethan Davis. I think a tight end like Ethan Davis is such a rare mismatch. So it's those three. I do got to be fair here, though. I can't just dismiss Nico, guys. We're like, other than Nico. Right. Let's give Nico Iamaleava some love. He is one on this list because he is going to break out, because he's going to go from not being a starter to, in my opinion, being a Heisman winner.
No, I don't know if he's Heisman winner, but he definitely could be at the ceremony, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was all SEC. As far as my three players, if I were to choose between these 10 that I wanted to be the agent of, it would be Arian Carter. I would cut a deal for Arian Carter to get Elijah Simmons in case he turns out to be healthy. And then my other one was actually Ethan Davis, because I think Ethan Davis is the type of NFL tight end that you want. He is incredibly athletic, and I don't know when it clicks for him, but we haven't talked enough about Ethan Davis. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. He is incredibly athletic. When it clicks, and it might be this year, it might be midway through the year, it might be next year. But when it clicks, because he hasn't played a lot of tight end, he is going to be really, really good. I'll remind you. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is he the most total package at tight end you've ever seen at Tennessee? People are going to say Jason Witten, and I love Jason Witten, and I think Witten has a case for the greatest complete tight end of all time in the NFL. But I'm talking about in athletic ability. Is he the greatest total package you ever saw in a tight end? Ethan Davis.
Dustin Moore. Do you remember that name?
That was 96, right? I don't remember that name.
Yeah, and he flamed out because he had off-field issues, but that was the best. He was Ethan Davis, but was like 275. I mean, he was ridiculously good. But other than that, yes, and people tell you that Dustin Moore is one of the most talented players at Tennessee in this era. I think Jason Witten is more athletic. Probably he doesn't get as much credit for being athletic because of the Caucasian issue, but I think
he's so big.
Yeah, and he's so big. You don't think a big white guy's being fast, but he is.
Jason Witten, I've told you, he's the only typically a tight end in the NFL. You could either line them up at receiver or line them up at left tackle. Jason Witten's the only player in NFL history you could have lined up at either one.
Agreed.